perspective and, of course, sharing a little more about what exactly is going on the ground in the United States of America as far as the government shutdown and these protests are considered. Meanwhile, viewers, we're shifting focus towards Venezuela. We're now learning that in Caracas, hundreds have marched to the UN office demanding respect for Venezuela's sovereignty and peace amid rising tensions with the United States. Meanwhile, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro has stated that his government warned Washington about plans by a local extremist terrorist group to place an explosive device at the U.S. Embassy in Caracas and that security around the diplomatic mission had been reinforced. The Venezuelan president described the plot as a typical false flag operation designed to provoke a scandal and blame his government, potentially triggering an escalation or confrontation. This statement comes amid a strong U.S. military deployment in the Caribbean, which is focused on combating drug trafficking, while the Venezuelan government, meanwhile, claims that it's an operation aimed at removing Maduro from power. Listen in to what Maduro had to say.
Una fuente de carácter nacional y una fuente de carácter internacional que se le hizo seguimiento y coincidió con la posibilidad de que un grupo terrorista, extremista, local, colocara una carga explosiva contra la Embajada de Estados Unidos en Caracas.
More news coming in. We're now learning that U.S. President Donald Trump has stated that he was pretty sure a Gaza peace deal was possible and has added that Hamas is agreeing to very important issues such as talks with Israel which have commenced. Trump has expressed optimism regarding the deal's prospects as delegations from Hamas and Israel initiated indirect talks in Egypt to end the war under his 20-point plan. Listen in to what Trump had to say.
I think we're going to have it soon. I think we're going to have a deal. It's a hard thing for me to say that when for years and years they've been trying to have a deal with Gaza. But, literally for centuries, okay, if you really think about it. But we're going to have a Gaza deal, I'm pretty sure, yeah, and there's progress. And yeah, the people of Israel want it to happen. But the people related to hostages, you see in Israel tens of thousands of people. They really want the hostages back, and they really want things to end. And I think Hamas now has been, all I can say is they've been fine. They've been fine. I hope it's going to continue that way. I think it will. I really think we're going to have a deal. We have a really good chance of making.
White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt has also stated that the Trump administration is working hard to advance as quickly as possible on the proposed plan to end the conflict in Gaza, with technical discussions underway. Listen in.
Yes, there are technical talks happening right now in Egypt amongst Special Envoy Witkoff and Mr. Kushner, as well as their respective parties from all sides. What we saw take place on Friday, and I have not commented on that from the podium yet, is truly remarkable. You've seen all sides of this conflict agree that this war needs to end and agree to the 20-point framework that President Trump proposed. It's an incredible achievement, and the administration is working very hard to move the ball forward as quickly as we can. The president wants to see a ceasefire. He wants to see the hostages released, and the technical teams are discussing that as we speak to ensure that the environment is perfect to release those hostages. They're going over the lists of both the Israeli hostages and also the political prisoners who will be released, and those talks are underway, and the president is very much on the ball and is being apprised of this situation.
Meanwhile, Swedish activist Greta Thunberg arrived in Greece to a cheering pro-Palestinian crowd after she and hundreds of other activists captured by Israel were deported following an attempt to bring aid to Gaza. Now, speaking in Athens, she accused the Israeli government about failing to ensure human rights and the bare minimum in ensuring the safety for the Gaza aid mission. Listen in.
Hey, let me be very clear. There is a genocide going on in front of our very eyes. A live-streamed genocide on all of our phones. No one has the privilege to say we are not aware of what is happening. No one in the future will be able to say, we did not know. Under international law, states have a legal obligation to act to prevent and to stop a genocide from happening. That means ending complicity, applying real pressure, and ending arms transfers. We are not seeing that. We are not even seeing the bare minimum from our governments. This genocide and other genocides are being enabled and fueled by our own governments, our institutions, our media and companies. It is our responsibility to end that complicity. And I also...
With us on the broadcast is Daniel Boardman, senior correspondent for the National Telegraph, joining us from Toronto in Canada. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. These talks are taking place between Hamas and Israel in Egypt. We do know that Egypt and Qatar are both putting a lot of pressure on Hamas to ensure that the deal moves forward. Trump has expressed optimism that we're likely to see the first phase being implemented by the end of this week. In your assessment, are we witnessing a genuine breakthrough taking place?
Maybe. And people have to, I mean, this is where the Trump administration is very good and sometimes has its flaws. Their heterodox thinking is much more conducive to peace in the Middle East. You saw the Abraham Accords in the first time, then all the Western technocrats for the last 70 years who have not understood the motivations of Gaza, Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and the rest. Now, the big disconnect that has always been the obstacle to peace here is that the Hamas representatives and the Hamas and the Gazans in Gaza are two vastly different parties, right? So Hamas leaders who have been in five-star hotels in Qatar and in Egypt and in Turkey have no incentive to end the war. They profit immensely off the war. They get to sort of steal all the aid and then sell it on the black market and then take all the sort of international donations, get funneled straight to them. So they're quite open. They enjoyed October 7th. It was great. And they're doing great off the war. So there's no incentive for the people negotiating on behalf of Hamas to end the war until a couple weeks ago when Israel bombed Qatar and then put the fear of God into the Hamas members internationally to do so. So the pressure is really coming from, I think, the thought that the Israelis might hunt them down to the end of the earth, and now their lives are on the line, just like the people of Gaza, so that might be moving things along. Also, Hamas has not agreed to the 20-point plan. They've agreed to maybe 6 or 7 of the 20 points, and then obfuscated the rest, and then they're going into negotiations. So if they agreed on the point of plans, why are there talks now? But again, Trump likes declaring victory on peace deals. So more important than the peace deals seems to be declaring victory on peace deals for Donald Trump. So what will happen in these talks, we don't know. The Israelis are highly skeptical because the Gazans, Hamas, PIJ, the Arab League have never, ever kept their word on any deal they've ever made with the Israelis, ever. So they have a 100% track record of lying. And if you remember 2005, when the Israelis withdrew from Gaza, gave Gaza full autonomy, gave them elections, gave them resources, gave them everything, gave them water, gave them greenery, gave them whatever. They burned it all down, declared eternal holy war against the Jews, and then this is what led to October 7th. So you have the West that doesn't really understand the motivations of messianic Islamo-fascist terrorists. They don't care about food, they don't care about water, they don't care about the people of Gaza. They don't care about their own lives. They care about, world domination, if you read their charter. So it comes down to, is you're going to get a lasting peace deal, or is this going to be sort of a Treaty of Versailles type situation where the Israelis are going to have to accept something where they can get the hostages back, and then we sort of go on a 10-year pause before Gaza has enough arms and tunnels to launch another attack on Israel, and then we're right back in the war in the 2030s. So that's what this is all about. I do hope that an actual peace deal can reach some equilibrium. What that would look like, we don't know, but it would need heavy U.S. backing of the Israelis to actually do something that would fundamentally end the forever war, which would be a couple kilometers of a buffer zone taken by the Israelis of Gaza. The only way that Hamas would learn the lesson of October 7th is if they lose land to Jews. That's the only thing in their mindset that would deter them. If there's no change of the border of Gaza, this is a total victory, and they're going to raise their kids to do this all over again.
As you've pointed out, Hamas has not agreed to the entire 20-point plan. Particularly, they've not agreed to disarm. I wanted to understand from you, in this context, what are the risks if a ceasefire is in place and Hamas retains even part of its stockpile, its weapons stockpile or tunnel infrastructure?
Well, the risk is incredibly high to first the Gazan people. Again, go back to 2005 when Israel gave full sovereignty to Gaza, and then they had an election and Hamas defeated the Palestinian Authority there. It was the most brutal and violent, bloody time in Palestinian history. More Palestinians, civilians, died from 2005 to 2007 than they did from 2023 to 2025, as Hamas conducted a brutal crackdown on dissent and really released a reign of terror. So a lot of the moderate Gazans are currently being protected by the Israeli military. I mean, you saw this after they thought there was a ceasefire. Hamas attacked one of the family clans that was sort of slipping out of their sphere of orbit, and the Israelis had to come in and defend the Gazan clans against Hamas, which then Hamas said was, a brutal assault by the Israelis, parroted by the international media and all that type of stuff. So the incredible risk that people aren't talking about is to the Gazan civilians right now. If there's a ceasefire and the Israeli offensive ceases on Hamas, and Hamas is able to move with free reign throughout the Strip, they will start killing political dissent. I mean, Greta talks about the live stream genocide. The top 10 most brutal videos coming out of Gaza that we have seen, if you look at them, are not from Israelis on Palestinians. They are from Hamas on Palestinians. I mean, you see videos of torture, them shooting people in the kneecaps, and then execution-style stuff. All the most brutal videos are Hamas versus Palestinian civilians or Palestinian dissidents. So the risk of stopping the Israeli offensive before Hamas is disarmed is that Hamas will then take the opportunity to kill more Gazan civilians, as they've been doing whenever they get the chance. In the previous ceasefires, this is what they did as well.
In fact, Trump's 20-point plan provides for the creation of an international board of peace to oversee post-war reconstruction. However, Hamas has remained mum on this so far and has only supported a future technocratic Palestinian leadership, which has also been outlined in this plan. In your assessment, is this then an attempt by Hamas to retain control behind the scenes while avoiding external oversight?
Yeah, 100%. If it's a Palestinian technocrat society, it's pretty easy for Hamas to take it over, right? You bribe or you kidnap someone's daughter or son, you do a couple executions, you torture someone, and then you're in charge of this committee. And then once the world's attention turns away in about 5 years, it's not Hamas, it's Shmamas. And it's, just a name change. And then you have Hamas again. So that's why they don't want any international oversight. They don't want anyone who has, sort of family or friends or bank accounts outside the Gaza Strip that they can't get at, because that's sort of their plan. I mean, you hit it there. That's quite obviously what they're trying to do is, allow a bunch of Palestinian technocrats to rule and then, hold a gun to their head behind the scenes if they're not disarmed. So this is why it's imperative that Hamas is disarmed and exiled from the Strip, and that Gaza loses territory because of the attack, because that's the only thing that will stick in the minds of Gazan civilians is October 7th led to loss of territory. Because if it's, October 7th, we didn't lose territory, we don't care about our own loss of life, we killed many Jews, it was very good, Harvard took our side, we have lots of Harvard students that are now jihadist sympathizers, we should do this again. So this is the calculus, and many in the West don't understand this. They want to pretend that an Israeli-Hamas peace deal is like a European peace deal between, the Austro-Hungarian Empire and the British Empire, and that's not what's in play here.
All right, Mr. Daniel Boardman, with that, I would like to thank you for taking out